When I first saw the old farmhouse, it looked like time itself had given up on it. The walls were cracked, the windows shattered, and vines crawled up its sides like they were trying to pull it back into the earth. The for sale sign leaned crookedly in the ground, faded by rain and years of neglect. Everyone told me I was crazy to even think about buying it. "It's falling apart," they said. "You'll waste your money." But something about that place, it spoke to me. Maybe it was the quiet dignity hidden beneath the decay, or maybe it was the idea of giving life back to something everyone else had already buried. Either way, I bought it. The farmhouse stood just outside the HOA boundary, a patch of land the neighborhood committee couldn't control. It felt like freedom. I didn't want the fake smiles, the strict lawn rules, or the judgmental eyes of people measuring your worth by the color of your fence. I wanted peace, and for a while I had it. The first few weeks were chaos, scraping old paint, repairing the foundation, replacing beams that crumbled like biscuits at a touch. I slept on a mattress on the floor, with the sound of wind howling through the cracks. But every morning I'd look out at the golden field behind the house and feel something I hadn't felt in years: purpose. Then one morning, a white SUV rolled up the dirt road, kicking up dust. A woman stepped out, mid-50s, perfectly styled hair, big sunglasses, and a clipboard in hand. Even before she spoke, I knew. She was one of them, the HOA kind, the kind who believed rules were meant for everyone else to follow, rules she created. She walked up like she owned the land, her heels sinking slightly in the gravel. "Excuse me," she said, scanning the house like she was inspecting a crime scene. "You can't just move in here." I laughed, thinking she was joking. "Well, I bought it, so I think I can." Her lips tightened. "This property is part of our historical community. You can't just make changes without approval." I told her this land was outside the HOA, legally separate. But she didn't want to hear it. Her name was Karen, of course it was, and she lived just down the road in a mansion that looked like it had been copied straight out of a glossy real estate magazine. She started pointing out everything she didn't like. That fence, wrong color. Those windows, not regulation style. And what's that old truck doing in the yard? It's ruining the view of the neighborhood. I tried to stay calm, explaining I wasn't part of her HOA, but she smirked like she knew better. "We'll see about that," she said, strutting back to her SUV. The dust she kicked up stayed longer than she did, but the discomfort she left behind lasted much longer. Days went by, and I tried to ignore her. I kept working, repainting the porch, sanding the door, patching the roof. Every nail I hammered felt like reclaiming a piece of peace I'd lost long ago. But Karen wasn't done. She began showing up again, sometimes just standing on the road, taking pictures with her phone. Once I caught her talking to a few neighbors, pointing toward my house like it was some kind of threat to civilization. One evening I came home from the hardware store to find her standing right on my porch. "You're trespassing," I told her, trying to keep my voice even. "This is community property," she said coldly. "It was abandoned for years. It belongs to us now," I laughed, even though I was furious. "Lady, I have the deed. I paid for this house." She crossed her arms. "That's impossible. I checked with the HOA records and there's no recent purchase." "That's because this land isn't under your HOA," I said slowly, like explaining something to a child. "I have no authority here." Her face twisted with a mix of confusion and rage. "We'll see about that," she repeated before storming off again. That night I couldn't sleep. The farmhouse creaked like it was whispering warnings. I went outside with a flashlight and saw the fence gate open. The lock was gone. My old pickup had scratches on the side, and someone had left a note on the windshield that said, "This isn't yours." My hands trembled with anger, but deep down, I wasn't scared. I was determined. I'd brought this house back from the dead. I wasn't letting anyone take it from me. The next morning, I went straight to the county records office. It took hours of paperwork and calls, but finally, I got what I needed: official proof of ownership, with clear boundaries showing I was outside the HOA. When I returned, I found Karen waiting again, this time with 2 other people, her committee members, as she called them. They had clipboards and fake smiles. She started lecturing me about community standards and property value. That's when I pulled out the documents. "You see this?" I said, holding up the official stamp. "County verified. This land, this house, and everything on it belong to me. Not your committee, not your neighborhood, and definitely not you. Her face went pale, but she didn't back down. We'll file a complaint, she said sharply. You're ruining the harmony of our community. I smiled. Funny, I didn't know freedom was such a threat. They left in silence that day, but the silence didn't last long. The next week, someone called in false reports. Noise complaints, construction without permit, even accusations of illegal dumping. Each time the county inspector came, checked and found nothing wrong. One of them even told me quietly, "We get calls like this all the time. Same lady, you're fine." The house kept changing with every passing week. The walls that once wept rain now glowed with warm light. The porch creaked under my boots but held strong. I built a small garden by the side, where wildflowers began to bloom again. It wasn't just a house anymore, it was a home. And every time I looked at it, I saw the proof that second chances were real. Not just for people, but for places too. But Karen couldn't stand it. Her perfect little world was losing control of something she couldn't command. One afternoon I found her standing near the old fence again, just staring. Her voice was softer this time, almost uncertain. "Why this house?" she asked. "Why here?" I looked at her, the wind carrying the scent of fresh paint and new life. "Because it deserved better," I said simply. Just like all of us do. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. She just turned and walked away, her heels crunching softly on the gravel road. Weeks passed and she never returned, not in person at least, though sometimes I'd see her SUV slow down when she passed by. Maybe she was just watching, or maybe she was remembering something she'd lost long ago when control became more important than peace. The farmhouse stands proud now, like it's breathing again. The sunsets fall gently across its porch, and the wind hums through the fields like a lullaby. I often sit there at dusk, sipping coffee, watching the golden horizon stretch endlessly. Sometimes I think about how everyone laughed when I said I'd buy a 120-year-old wreck. Sometimes I think about how Karen tried to claim it, how she wanted to make it hers. But most of the time I just smile, because this house, this land, this story, it's proof that peace isn't something you find. It's something you build, nail by nail, moment by moment. And for the first time in a long time, I know I'm home. Months passed peacefully after that last confrontation. The farmhouse had transformed completely. Its walls gleamed in soft cream paint. The porch railings shone under the morning sun, and wildflowers danced around the edges like nature's applause. I had rebuilt everything with my own hands, brick by brick, until it no longer looked like a forgotten ruin, but a home reborn from dust and memory. Every creak of the floor, every smell of old wood and lavender oil reminded me that some things are worth saving. Even when the world thinks they're lost. But peace never lasts long when you live next to someone who feeds on control. Karen's silence was too quiet. It felt like the calm before a storm. I should have known she wasn't done. One morning, as the golden light spilled across the fields, I heard the sound of an engine. When I stepped outside, I froze. 3 cars lined up by my gate. One was Karen's white SUV, another a sleek black sedan, and the third a pickup marked with the county's code enforcement logo. My heart sank. Karen stood proudly beside the officers, arms crossed, a smug grin plastered on her face. "Morning," she said sweetly. "We have an issue here." The officer stepped forward with a clipboard. "We've received multiple reports that this property is illegally occupied. The previous owner's family claims the sale was never finalized." I blinked, confused. "That's impossible. I bought this house legally months ago," Karen smirked. "Well, perhaps there's been a misunderstanding." My stomach tightened. She'd gone further than I ever imagined. She had actually forged a complaint, pretending the sale wasn't valid. I rushed inside and returned with the deed, the purchase papers, and the county verification I'd shown her before. The officer took them, checking each page carefully. After several minutes, he sighed. "Everything looks in order. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, Ma'am," he said, turning to Karen. Her face flushed red. "That can't be right. My records—" "Your records," the officer interrupted firmly, "don't apply here. This land is outside your HOA jurisdiction." The words hit her like a slap. She stood there speechless for the first time, her perfect posture faltering. The officers got back in their cars and left, leaving her alone in the road, trembling with frustration. I thought that would be the end of it. But Karen wasn't the kind of woman who accepted defeat. A few days later, I found a for sale sign hammered into the ground at the edge of my driveway, with my address written on it. Someone had listed my property online pretending to sell it. That's when I realized she wasn't just angry. She wanted revenge. I took pictures, filed a report, and the sheriff's office opened an investigation. They traced the fake listing back to an anonymous email account, which, unsurprisingly, was linked to Karen's HOA network. It was almost pathetic. When the deputies confronted her, she denied everything, acting shocked and insulted that anyone would accuse her. "I'm a community leader," she said dramatically. "I would never do such a thing," but her eyes gave her away. They were the eyes of someone who couldn't stand seeing another person happy outside her control. For a while, I stopped seeing her around. Maybe the investigation scared her. Maybe guilt caught up. But the damage she caused lingered. Trespassers showed up at odd hours, thinking the house was for sale. I had to put up cameras and motion lights just to keep things safe. Then one night around 2 a.m., the cameras caught something I couldn't believe. Karen. She had come back. The footage showed her sneaking around the porch, flashlight in hand, trying to open a window. My blood boiled. She wasn't trying to intimidate me anymore. She was trying to get inside. The next morning, I called the sheriff again. They came, reviewed the footage, and filed a trespassing charge. When the officers visited her, she broke down, insisting she just wanted to check on the property's condition, but it was too late. Her mask had finally cracked. Days later, I saw her SUV drive past my gate again, slower than usual. She stopped for a moment, staring at the house like she was seeing a ghost. Then she rolled down her window and shouted, "You don't deserve this place. You ruined everything." I walked closer, calm but firm. "You tried to take what wasn't yours," I said, "and you lost. Maybe it's time to stop ruining yourself trying to ruin others." Her eyes filled with tears, but not of regret, of rage. "This used to be a respectable neighborhood," she said bitterly. "Now it's just you." Then she drove off, tires screeching, leaving a cloud of dust behind her like the last breath of her pride. After that, things finally began to settle. The HOA tried to distance themselves from her, calling it a personal dispute. Her reputation crumbled quietly, one whisper at a time. And me? I focused on finishing what I started. The farmhouse became my sanctuary. I restored every last detail. The carved banisters, the old brick fireplace, the heartwood floors that creaked like memories. In the evenings, I'd light a candle and sit by the window, watching the stars stretch over the quiet land. Sometimes I'd think about everything that happened, how something as simple as an old house brought out the worst in one person and the best in me. But there was one moment that stayed with me. A month after everything ended, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address, just my name. Inside was a short handwritten note that said, "You were right. It deserved better. I just didn't know how to let go." For a long time I sat there reading those words over and over. For the first time I saw the truth behind all her anger. Karen wasn't just controlling, she was lost. Maybe she'd built her whole life around being in charge, and when she couldn't control me, it cracked something inside her. The farmhouse taught me something that day. People, like old houses, carry history inside them. Broken beams, cracked windows, walls painted over too many times. Some just need someone to see what's underneath the damage. Today, when I walk through those creaky halls, I don't just hear the echo of my footsteps. I hear the hum of life returning, the same heartbeat that first drew me to this place. The wind plays softly through the fields, and the golden light spills through the windows, painting everything in warmth. Sometimes neighbors stop by. They ask if I'd ever sell it. I just smile. "Not for the world," I say, because this house isn't just mine. It's a reminder that peace isn't given, it's earned. That even when people try to steal your light, you can still shine brighter. And every once in a while, when the air is still and the road is quiet, I think I hear the faint sound of a car slowing down, just beyond the trees. Maybe it's her. Maybe she's just looking. Maybe in some strange way, she finally understands that control and happiness can't live in the same house. The farmhouse stands tall now, proud against the sunset, a survivor of time, of storms, and of one woman's desperate attempt to claim what was never hers. And as I stand on the porch, watching the horizon burn gold and crimson, I whisper softly, almost to the wind itself, "This is where peace lives now."